First up, Pakistan-Bangladesh foreign secretaries meet after 15 long years. The foreign secretary meeting comes amidst strained ties between India and Bangladesh and also sets the tone for foreign ministers' meeting that will take place later this month.
How can anything foreign be in there in a jugular vein? This is a union territory of India. Its only relationship with Pakistan is the vacation of illegally occupied territories by that country.
India slams Pakistan Army Chief's two-nation theory remark. Pakistan Army Chief spoke about Kashmir being allegedly Pakistan's jugular vein, a remark that has been completely junked and debunked by India. There's a sharp fall in Indian students going abroad. Reports suggest that it's not just the US, it's UK and Canada as well that have seen their sharpest drop in 4 years. So where are Indian students now headed? We tell you. US President Donald Trump says Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's termination from his position can't come quickly enough, arguing that the US Central Bank should have lowered interest rates already this year and in any case should do so now. Type 5 diabetes officially recognized. It is now the new disease that is affecting millions of kids and youngsters worldwide. At least 25 million have been affected by type 5 diabetes. What's the road ahead for India? How badly is it affected here? We tell you more on that. In a move that signals growing closeness between Bangladesh and Pakistan, the foreign secretaries of the two countries are meeting after a gap of 15 long years. It's a precursor to a meeting between the foreign ministers of both countries. The move is an indication of just how far the political landscape of Bangladesh has moved since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, under whose tenure the relationship between Pakistan and Bangladesh was frosty at best. The impact on India will be on multiple fronts, from security to strategic, which is why the big questions that we are asking today on India Global. First up, does this mark a complete normalization of ties between Pakistan and Bangladesh? Second, what key outcomes can we really expect from this meeting between the foreign secretaries of the two countries? Next, how will bilateral ties be boosted with closer economic ties and more visa relaxations between Dhaka and Islamabad? How should India be preparing for this Pakistan-Bangladesh cooperation or bonhomie that is now picking up? To talk on that, let me now get in Janalata Hasnain, a man who understands the region as well as these two countries very well. So thank you so much for speaking to me on India Global. Let me start by asking you, sir, how do you read this meeting coming after 15 long years?
Thank you, Gaurie. Thank you for inviting me to your show. And yes, it's a momentous moment for them. No doubt, 15 years later that you are having a visit of the foreign secretary, a meeting, an impending meeting of the foreign ministers, everything coming to a head, it seems at the moment. Obviously, the theory which I have been always speaking about, that Pakistan never seems to have left the shores of Bangladesh, even after 1971, being roundly defeated in 1971, somehow it remained embedded here in some form or the other. And you find that after 5th of August, very, very quickly, within 2 months or so, you found things started moving and networks started getting re-established. These networks existed in some form or the other all these years, and they have been reactivated. This is essentially a strategic kind of a thing from Pakistan, a tie-up between Pakistan and Bangladesh. And Pakistan, for them, is particularly a major advantage in the sense of opening a third front as far as India is concerned. They realize that they themselves are weak on the western front. India faces a northern front, and here a third on the eastern front would definitely come to their strategic advantage overall. This seems to be the Pakistani design, and it's quite obvious that the type of visits we have seen, the ISI, the number of visits of the ISI to the strategic locations, to places like Lal Munir, Hart, and Chittagong, etc. All the right messaging. My last part on this part of the intervention, this is a larger part of the influence operations, the information warfare attempt basically being done against India to intimidate us.
General Islam, there have been visa relaxations that have taken place. There have been these military drills that are taking place. There are now reports that Pakistan could even become a regional hub for Bangladeshi exports that could go further ahead to Afghanistan and Iran. So we're really talking about possibility of several layers. At least that's what Pakistan and Bangladesh would be hoping to achieve. How much do you think the chances are of something like that materializing?
See, Gaurie, is still too early to say as to which direction this particular relationship is going at the moment. Pakistan by itself, you know, it is in the throes of a major economic crisis itself. Bangladesh, instead of tying up with a nation which is upwardly mobile as far as economics is concerned, such as India, is looking at tying up with a nation which is looking for this 24th
IMF bailout
of the IMF loan from them of $3 million or so. Now, what Bangladesh should be looking at in terms of advantage to its people is more visas in India, medical visas, tourist visas, education visas. This is the kind of soft power which enables a nation to progress and move ahead. Here they are looking for visas to go to Pakistan. For what? How much can Pakistan do for Bangladesh in the near future? And if you are going to keep on doing this, if you're upsetting the strategic relationship that you have with India, what is going to be the effects on the softer aspects, the aspects of economics, the aspects of cultural ties, the understanding we have between the two nations? The longest border, 4,000 kilometers border, also exists on this flank.
Yes. And sir, the other aspect I want to ask you is that this comes at a time when Bangladesh is also reaching out actively to China for investments near the India-Bangladesh border, whether it is the hospitals, whether it's the Teesta water project, all that. And at the same time, are these overtures coming in for Pakistan? How do you see all of it posing a threat to India?
See, there's no doubt that Bangladesh has felt all along that somehow it's not been able to participate in exploit China's Belt and Road Initiative. There was an attempt to try and bring about the Bangladesh-India-Myanmar-China corridor, which geopolitically did not fructify. So it has been feeling affected all this while. And they want to go to China to try and get China to participate in their own economic revival to lead it to some kind of a boom or the other.
Yes.
And they hope that by putting down India in its relationship, they can at the same time enhance their overall relationship with China. Now, that's a very incorrect way of doing international relations and establishing diplomatic ties. They can definitely get along with India, make sure that it's economically they maintain their ties and continue doing the same with China at the same time. There should be no problem with that.
Absolutely. Well, bottom line, viewers, is that under Mohammad Yunus, Bangladesh has normalized radical Islamic elements. It has witnessed continued attacks on minorities, particularly the Hindu population. It is also more ideologically aligned to the BNP, the party which has always advocated for closer ties with Pakistan. For India, there are implications. China is getting extremely close to the India-Bangladesh border by offering to build hospitals ostensibly and getting aligned to the Teesta water project. On the other hand, China is heavily invested in its economic corridor in Pakistan. Both these scenarios will require New Delhi to come up with deft diplomacy and, most importantly, timely counter to these maneuvers. On Pakistan, well, the army chief is on a rant. He's talking about Kashmir in the most possibly Hindu-phobic speech ever, but there's nothing new in that. What is new is that this rant is coming at a time when the army is facing multiple challenges. Most importantly, it is facing a security concern and challenge in the Balochistan region. And this, many believe, is a desperate attempt to do nothing but to deflect. Before we go any further, before we talk about why this matters and why Pakistani military is on the back foot, listen in to this important soundbite that is coming in on on what the Pakistani army chief really said.
Well, our forefathers, they thought that we are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different. Our customs are different. Our traditions are different. Our thoughts are different. Our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations. We are not one nation. So because of that, our forefathers, they struggled, mounted that incessant struggle to create this country. Our forefathers, they have sacrificed immensely, and we have sacrificed a lot for the creation of this country, and we know how to defend it.
As I said, this was the Hindu-phobic speech where he also spoke about Kashmir, and where he said that Kashmir was Pakistan's jugular vein, a notion that has always, time and again, been junked by India in no uncertain terms, again done so by the Ministry of External Affairs. Listen in.
How can anything foreign be in there in a jugular vein? This is a union territory of India. Its only relationship with Pakistan is the vacation of illegally occupied territories by that country.
General Hasnain and Fakhar Yousafzai are with me to talk more on this. Fakhar, let me start with you. Pakistani army chief is making comments at a time when he is facing so many challenges. Instead of worrying or bothering about Kashmir and making those Hindu-phobic speeches, he should actually be focusing on the security challenges that the Pakistani army faces.
And good evening to both of you. Actually, of course, I agree with you that we have so many challenges in our country, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. But I will say that Balochistan is a burning issue right now. As you know, the people of Balochistan is on protest from last couple of months. Everywhere you can see the protest in every district, in every tehsil, in every town. But apart from that, the BLA is in action. They are attacking the Pakistan army in everywhere in Balochistan, from Quetta to Fuzdar, Turbat, Sibbi, Bolan, everywhere you can see their presence, and they are attacking the Pakistan military forces everywhere. Actually, I think so. This is a very important issue. Kashmir is, of course, that is the narrative of Pakistan. That is a bilateral issue between the India and Pakistan. But of course, first of all, we should go for our house in order. We should focus on our internal security in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in Balochistan. If we can talk to the TTP or we can fight, of course, we should go for that. How many options we have for that? With BLA or with the political leaders of Balochistan, which option we have, we should go for that. I think so. Our military establishment as well as our government, actually, they are. I think so. They are threatening the people of Balochistan, which is not right. I think so. They are not happy from the state of Pakistan or from the government of Pakistan or from the government of Balochistan. Of course, for all these concerns, we should go with the soft hand. We should discuss the issues. We should discuss their concerns.
We'll come to that, Fakhar. But first of all, let me
rights.
commend you for the fact that you're probably the most reasonable, rational voice coming in from Islamabad, and something that I must commend you for. General Hasnain, you heard our guest from Islamabad admitting that at the end of the day, Pakistani army needs to put its own house in order, and these are nothing but deflection tactics.
See, Gaurie, first of all, my compliments to Fakhar Saab. I mean, hats off to you. You are a very courageous man. Let me say that, right? Having said that, let me recall the words of the Pakistan Army Chief. When I was looking at this video clip, I was not looking at him. I was hearing his words and I was looking at the audience. Noticeably, you will see how uncomfortable the audience is. The audience is not comfortable listening to those words, that we are two different people, we are two different nations, we are two different so-and-so. Anyone you ask in Pakistan, you take them on the sidelines of any meeting and come together, a Pakistani will invariably come and give you a warm handshake and want to know more about India. Indians also like Pakistani culture. Our cultures are common. The religion part of it, leave it out. Religions are always different. But here we are one people and we have one culture. Can you deny the fact that how much Lata Mangeshkar is, for example, appreciated in Pakistan? Right? So many Pakistani singers, Pakistani dramas, the way they are appreciated in India. I mean, everyone understands that culturally we are one people, divided out by those who want to divide us through the whole medium of religion. Now, I will also take 1 minute to just tell you, Gaurie, 1977, this is exactly what happened when Ziaul Haq came to power.
Yes.
Realizing the weaknesses of Pakistan at that time, this is what he adopted. Radicalism, radical Islam to try and unite Pakistan together.
Yes.
This is exactly what Asim Munir is trying to do today when the Pakistani state is absolutely under fire from all kinds, from every direction of all kinds of forces which are going on at the moment. Instead of trying to unite people through the normalization, through means of normalization, don't divide them on the basis of religion. That is the worst thing. Religion is not necessarily a unifier. It is always a divider.
Indeed. Fakhar, the fact is that Asim Munir is playing a 50-year-old playbook. India has moved ahead. Look at the economic size of India. Look at the aspirations of Indians. And Pakistan seems to be stuck in a particular space because of its army, because of how the army, the deep establishment wants to take the country back and keep, of course, ranting about Kashmir.
Of course, you're right. We should move ahead. Of course, we should learn from India what they are doing. Of course, we know about the India that is a secular country. We know in Pakistan that India is a secular country. Of course, more than 200 million Muslim people are living in India. Almost the population which living in Pakistan. Same like that, the other religion people living in India. Of course, in Pakistan, we have not more than 11 million Hindu community. They are also the part of this society. Of course, we shouldn't be divided on the basis of religion. We should talk about the prosperity. We should talk about the progress. We should talk that how we can go ahead with the world. Of course, the India have a very good relation with the Saudi Arabia. All the Muslims are going to perform Hajj and Umrah over there. Why they have very close ties with the Narendra Modi Sahab, and why the MBS calls him my elder brother, and why the Narendra Modi Sahab call him my brother. Same like that with the Sheikh Zayed.
Right.
They are better Muslim than us, I think so, and we follow the Saudi Arabia. We will not follow the other Muslim country, I think. So, therefore, we should think about that this is not a time that we are talking and we should divide our society on the basis of religion. We have so many problems. Believe me, we have so many problems because of all these things. There are TLP, they are attacking the KFC everywhere in Pakistan right now, especially in Punjab. Why? Because they are claiming this, that they are selling the product of Israel. Of course, the KFC owner are living here in Pakistan. They are not from Israel, from Tel Aviv, or from New York, or from the Washington D.C.
Yes.
This is the thing we should decrease the radicalization in our society, which is very important.
Okay.
And of course, if we want to, we go ahead. We should want to progress in our country, in Pakistan. Of course, we should go for the other theory, not for this theory that why we separate from the Muttahida Hindustan. Why?
Absolutely.
Of course, we should think about it. We are talking about the two-nation theory, but what about the Bangladesh? Of course, that was the part of that two-nation theory, which is now Bangladesh, not Eastern Pakistan.
Yes.
Why we are not thinking about it? It is very important.
It's a very important aspect, and I'm going to come back and talk more on that on another time. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to me on an issue that has so many threads to it, from culture to security to strategic aspects. On that note, I'm going to slip into a very short break. Come back on the other side, talk more about External Affairs Ministry on Mehul Choksi's extradition, the latest there. We come back and give you the latest in terms of the fugitive diamanteers' extradition request by New Delhi.
Whether you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock. Or they just keep on growing. Get more time to pay with VeryPay. You can buy now and pay up to 12 months later. And pay no interest, with nothing to pay at checkout. And you can easily keep track of payments in the Very app. More time to pay with VeryPay.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma, but so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pamelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. By calling 0800 038 4926 and giving £1 a week to Sightsavers, you can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 038 4926. Text C13 to 82727 or go online and give just £1 a week now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
I think that there's something that's always there that I just need to uncover. Like, I know I'm gonna get there, but I have to be patient with myself. That's probably the scary part for me. And it's okay, like, if you completely pivot and change. You know, you have to be comfortable with that.
Someone's happy. Get that lucky cow feeling with luckycowbingo.com/bingo, the site that's bursting with beautiful bingo games. 75 ball bingo, even 90 ball bingo. Fill your bingo boots today. Get that lucky cow feeling at luckycowbingo.com/bingo or download the Lucky Cow Android app from the Play Store.
His senior most disciple to teach me.
India is pushing for the extradition of fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi from Belgium. External Affairs Ministry has confirmed that Mehul Choksi was arrested in Belgium on the 12th of April following India's formal request for the same. Belgian authorities have said that he remains in detention with access to legal counsel. Choksi is accused in the 13,850 crore rupee Punjab National Bank fraud case, and he left India, or rather fled India, in 2018 and faces multiple charges by the CBI and Enforcement Directorate. 2 non-bailable warrants have been issued by a Mumbai court that form the basis of the arrest. Choksi's nephew, Nirav Modi, is already in a UK jail over related charges. The government has said that it's working closely with Belgian authorities to bring Choksi back to stand trial in India. Before we go any further, listen into what the External Affairs Ministry had to say on that.
On Mehul Choksi case, we, as you are aware, based on our extradition request, he was arrested in Belgium. We are closely working with the Belgian side for his extradition to India so that he can face trial in the country.
All right, let's get in more details on this. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins me live to talk more about what next we can expect. There's a process here, Ghazali, but the fact that the government has put its diplomatic might behind this is indicative of the fact that this could move faster than we imagine.
Yeah, because Mehul Choksi is fighting 2 cases. One, that his arrest should be stayed because he has been arrested by the Belgian authorities. His lawyers have moved an application there because there is no provision of bail in Belgium So the lawyers have moved an application citing his health reasons, that he is not a flight risk and hence he should be kept out of the bars of the jail and of the prison. And that is when he will start contesting against the extradition request of India. By India. So the External Affairs Ministry is aware of all these legal options which Mr. Choksi have, and yet the External Affairs Ministry today confirmed that they have placed the request with their Belgian counterparts for his extradition. But certainly a long legal battle awaits before his extradition, as we saw in Tahabur Rana's case, because even Rana had multiple legal options and legal chances which he exercised to sort of attempt to have a stay on his extradition. We are not sure whether Mr. Choksi will also have that kind of options there in Belgium.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, let's leave it there. At the end of the day, the government is not going to relent till it gets all these fugitives, whether it's Nirav Modi or Mehul Choksi. It may take time, but the law will catch up. And on that note, we're slipping into a short break. Coming back on the other side, why are Indian students ditching their study abroad dreams, particularly for the US, UK and Canada, and who stands to benefit? Which could be those new geographies? We come back and tell you more.
Because your brain really matters.
At Direct Line, we know that for multi-property landlords, sometimes the tiniest of things can turn into way bigger problems. From niggly contract issues to keeping up with ever-changing legislation. That's why Direct Line's landlord insurance offers a 24/7 legal helpline as standard. Because a call with someone could help to make the hairiest of problems feel that little bit smoother. Search Direct Line Landlord Insurance. We're on it.
I'm a simple man, but now I'm in my 50s, things are getting a little more complicated. Retirement's peeking around the corner, and I wanted to make sure my family would be really looked after if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today.
They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period.
Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life.
Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team in just one phone call.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period and no annoying trips to the doctors either.
Now I'm with Cover Today, I can get on with something much more interesting.
Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card. To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0808 143 4774 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
Students, including an Indian student, have sued the Donald Trump administration for what they alleged was the unlawful termination of their student immigration status, which leaves them at risk of possible deportation. Chinmay Gaurie, an Indian student studying in the US, along with 3 other foreign students, filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. This comes amidst the government's immigration crackdown. The students who are studying at the Michigan Public University took the legal route after their status was allegedly terminated unlawfully. The US government said last month that it was only acting against people who are counter to the national interest, such as students with criminal records and others who have participated in protests that are anti-Semitic. But many students have said that they haven't committed any deportable offenses but are still facing the dark, and in fact their future now is under question, which is why this lawsuit could be very important and landmark going forward. Staying with the Trump administration versus students theme, the administration is less than 100 days old, remember, and it has already been undertaking the most sweeping set of changes for immigration. And the fight is not just for the illegal immigrants, but now increasingly for the legal ones, like the students that we've been talking about. But here's the truth bombshell, viewers. Indian students, which comprise the largest chunk of international students in the US, are now exploring other avenues for higher education.
Someone's happy. Get that lucky cow feeling with luckycowbingo.com/bingo, the site that's
Indian students looking to study in the UK. As per reports, for Canada, that figure stands at 32%. And those reports indicate that it's a whopping 34% when it comes to the US, more than a third actually. Now, what does this trend tell us, and who all does this impact is the big debate on India Global. And as always, the big questions. But before that, let's get the big questions first, and then we get you a soundbite on this. But first up, the big questions, which is that are Chinese students being preferred over Indian students, as some of the data indicates? Which are the new destinations where students may be now looking to go to instead of US, UK and Canada? Can universities actually remain profitable or even viable without the intake of international students? And can Canada, US and the UK actually function without global talent? How will these economies actually function is the key question. As I said, before I open this up for discussion, let's first play up the soundbite by External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal on the climate in which international students are now operating under Trump 2.0.
We are aware that several Indian students have received communication from the US government regarding their F1 visa status, which happens to be the student visa. We are looking into the matter. Our embassy and consulate, they are in touch with the students to provide support.
Prashant Ajmera joins me along with Sanam Arora from the UK to talk more about what this means and the larger message it's really sending. In fact, Mr. Ajmera, let me start by asking you, are you now receiving more and more requests from Indian students evaluating geographies and opportunities outside the US, UK and Canada?
Yes, that trend is there, but also what you have to see that what has happened in the last since 2015. When we see the number of students when started going more towards the US and Canada, they all presume that the study abroad is the only way to go abroad. And they thought that they can go to America, they can go to Canada or a UK, these three countries, what we have seen the report today, and they will get a job, automatically they will get the immigration. But when they reach there, they realize that what they were being told by their agent, consultants, their peers, or from wherever they got the information were not the correct information. So in USA, now it's taking almost 13, 14 years to get your green card from the date you applied. So altogether it's a 20 years journey. Similarly, things happens with respect to the Canadian students. Then 2015, Canada government introduced the IELTS requirements, and then the student surge happened from 40,000 to almost more than 200,000. Now, in that scenario, if we look at it, that this large number of students started going in, and it becomes in the last few years the destinations. But when students arrived in Canada, they realized that job is not automatic, immigration is not automatic. They were finding it difficulties to get a job related to their occupation. Forget about any odd jobs, but related to their occupations. And if they do not have all these things together, it will
then
not
what's the
convert
point?
into
It's not
immigration.
adding up. The math is not adding up. The effort is not adding up. The student loans are not adding up. That's a very important point. Let me get in Sanam Arora on that. Sanam, which is the fact that it's not just the Trump administration effect. It's just 100 days old. The data that we are talking about is actually going back 4 years. In the last 4 years, the sharpest fall one has seen of Indian students going to US, UK and Canada. Explain to us that what's the scenario like in the UK, which is suddenly now a not so attractive a destination for Indian students?
I'd actually say that, overall, everywhere in the world, in all the Western English-speaking markets, we're seeing a decline more generally from India. Partially, it's because, as you correctly said, about the employment situation in those countries. As growth has dried up in those countries, so have employment opportunities. Partially, it's down to the fact that there's all this geopolitical tension, anti-globalization, and the consideration of students as immigrants. So a lot of this is very political as opposed to economic as well. But in the UK, the numbers have dropped by just under 20%. There are two main reasons why that happened. In fact, three main reasons why that happened. The first is last year in the UK, there was a ban on dependents. So students who previously could bring any dependents over now cannot bring dependents over on the student visa, apart from any research courses. Now, majority of Indian students go to study postgraduate taught courses, which means they can't take their dependents on that anymore. So that has had a disproportionately high impact on the numbers choosing to go to the study, to study in the UK. The second is that the pound has obviously escalated considerably. And if you look at the numbers, even right now, the pound is some 113 rupees to a pound or so. So that value, the exchange rate has actually considerably increased in favor of GBP, which is obviously making it much more expensive for Indians to go abroad. And finally, there is some element of this is hyper exaggeration though, because after COVID, there was a massive rise in the overall numbers that chose to go to the UK, that chose to go to other destinations as well. So some of this fall, some of this 20% that we're seeing in the UK is what I would call a correction, a natural correction in terms of the numbers of students. I'm actually speaking to you from Bangalore at the moment, where we are speaking to thousands of students who are thinking about their study abroad options. I can tell you that on the ground, and I've already been in 3 other cities in South and West India, they're all now looking at the UK as their big study destination as opposed to the US. So the US flow is definitely moving towards the UK at the moment.
So the US flow may be moving towards the UK, but the fact is, you said some of these numbers, a 20% dip actually means 1 in 5. It's not a very small dip that we are talking about, which also brings me to ask Mr. Ajmera that if you were to advise students, their parents, their families, who are concerned about visa restrictions, more changes which are restrictive in nature, which are the other geographies you would probably advise them to explore? Would that be Australia? Would that be some other country? What would that be? And specifically, if you could give maybe for courses, that would be even more helpful.
See, that's exactly what needs to be done, that the student has to do their homework. If I say about the permanent immigrations of the Canada or a USA, hasn't changed in the last 30 years. It hasn't changed. But people or students are presuming that if I go to Canada, I get my immigrations, I get my jobs, and life is set. And that homework is not being done by the students, and that's why they're going to face the same difficulties, whichever country they do it. So my advice to students and to the parents would be that before you choose the even new destinations, like for Germany or New Zealand or Australia, make sure that you have got a confirmed information from a reliable sources or an immigration lawyer or an agent, whereby you know that what you're going to study, what is in the demand, how I'm going to get a job, and how I'm going to get my immigration. That all these 3 questions should be answered before you even start applying for a university. You cannot just presume that, okay, I apply to Australia or a UK or Germany, and my life is set for the job and for the immigration. And that planning is lacking.
I think you're making a point, but also there's, it's not as simplistic as that. Most people who go abroad know that life is not set till all things fall in place. It's more than that. But Sanam, the other thing I want to ask you is that there is growing uncertainty, isn't it? And some of it is a carry-on probably from 22, 23 onwards. UK started seeing the dip in the number of international students even before the US and Canada. Talk to us about the uncertainty that one is seeing in European countries, which is impacting outlook for students coming in.
In countries like the UK, it was because we had a lot of constant policy flip-flopping, as I call it, under the last few governments that we had under the Tories. One day you had a graduate visa route, which is a 2-year post-study work visa that you get if you go to UK to study. Another day you didn't. Another day it was put under review, and then it wasn't. Like last year as well, there was a whole review process that graduate route was put under. What that does and those sorts of things. Now, Australia has gone through a similar amount of noise in the last year or two, where their parliament's been proposing things. And Canada is obviously, we've all seen what's been happening between India and Canada on various relations. So for all the large Western-speaking markets, as well as countries like the UK and some others in Europe, because of the whole anti-globalization sort of wave that seems to have hit us in the world, the uncertainty is coming from the fact that you have right-wing versus left-wing, and students are being thought of as immigrants, which is totally incorrect. Students should not be seen as immigrants. They are actually students who are looking for some work experience opportunity after. So in the UK, we now finally have a very stable government and a very stable understanding of what a student's desires are. And therefore, this post-study work offer continues to be in place in the United Kingdom, and we are actually seeing an upturn in numbers as we look at the next big intake, which is in September 2025.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on a story that impacts lives, it impacts careers, and it impacts families around the world, particularly in India. Bottom line, viewers, is that globally the trend is that international students are welcome, but they are only welcome till the day they are paying their tuition fees. But remember, they form a very large chunk of revenues for universities. They form a large chunk of global talent pool for the economies of US, UK and Canada. Regressive practices, retrograde sentiments that make highly qualified talent pool unacceptable, make them feel like pariahs in a country that needs these talented people, is a trend that will only amplify international students, particularly those coming from India, to evaluate other opportunities. Visa restrictions should be in place which are legitimate, which are acceptable, but one that are driven by trends, one that are driven by fear or xenophobic tendencies will actually mean that global talent will go elsewhere. On that note, we're slipping into a break. Coming up on the other side, type 5 diabetes officially recognized. What does this mean for India? How vulnerable are Indians to this? And what can they do about it? We come back and talk more on that.
Someone's happy. Get that lucky cow feeling with luckycowbingo.com/bingo. The site that's bursting with beautiful bingo games. 75 ball bingo. Even 90 ball bingo. Fill your bingo boots today. Get that lucky cow feeling at luckycowbingo.com/bingo or download the Lucky Cow Android app from the Play Store.
Whether you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing, get more time to pay with VeryPay. You can buy now and pay up to 12 months later, and pay no interest, with nothing to pay at checkout. And you can easily keep track of payments in the Very app. More time to pay with VeryPay.
For me, it's about getting your base structure right and then looking at what you've got. I'm constantly just changing things. Looking at like different aspects of nature and how they fit together and, you know, having your personality come through your product. And it takes a lot of work to feel this effortless, but I always know when it's right.
This baby bear is terrified, torn from her mother's paws at a tender age. They will force her to live alone in a tiny, filthy cage, like so many bears driven mad by loneliness, rubbing their wounds raw against the bars, suffering cruelly day after day, year after year, just for people's entertainment. Four Paws found little Potap crammed into a tiny, squalid cage. He'd been there for almost 9 years, lonely and isolated. There are so many more young bears who need your help. Please call 0800 038 0455 or text CUB3 to 78866 and give £2 a month to help rescue them. Every month, your £2 could help us free more bears, help give bears the veterinary care they need, and help them live happy, healthy lives in the freedom of our natural sanctuaries. Call 0800 038 0455 or text CUB3 to 78866 and give £2 a month and help Four Paws free bears from agonizing torture. Please, don't leave these bears to suffer for a single day more.
For decades, millions of young Indians were misdiagnosed. They were mistreated or possibly just ignored. But now there is breakthrough. The International Diabetes Federation has officially recognized type 5 diabetes, a previously misunderstood form of the disease. It primarily affects lean and undernourished teens and young adults in low and middle income countries. Unlike the more common types, type 5 is triggered by largely malnutrition, and it hampers the body's ability to produce enough insulin. But why was this type of diabetes overlooked for so long, and what are the implications of this and how it impacts Indians? To discuss this, let's quickly now get in an important voice joining me, Dr. Anshu Alok, who's a senior consultant endocrinologist joining me from Max Hospital. Dr. Anshu, explain to us the impact this has on India, given the fact that India is the diabetes capital of the world. Of course, it's not type 5, it is a different type, but the fact is, how much does it impact Indians?
First of all, I think, although we did not have an official name for it, it is a type of diabetes. We've always seen. The reason that it was not part of the classification was, we didn't have enough data to directly show that malnutrition by itself is directly causing this type of diabetes. But while as clinicians we've always noticed, we've seen this type of diabetes, which is not textbook-like, where we don't have features of type 1 diabetes, where there's severe insulin deficiency and people go into ketosis. Neither we have features of type 2 diabetes, where they're typically obese or they have insulin resistance. So this is a type of diabetes where we see features, overlapping between the two. Primarily affects, it has been seen in many developing countries across, in Africa, part of Asia, it has been seen. Although we have now, by the IDF has, given it a name, it has been classified as type 5. But clinically, we've always seen that, and we've been treating it per se. I think the only change that it would do is, number one, more awareness. So often, as clinicians and at the primary care level, when we see, we might be able to identify these people and know that, okay, these are the people who might need insulin early.
Any back of the envelope calculations in terms of how many Indians could be susceptible to it or may have it and don't know about it?
So worldwide, they say around 25 million people, which is like around 2.5 crores. Specifically in India, again, we form a big chunk of our population, especially in rural areas or a part of the urban areas where there's, a lot of undernourished, people where they are living. But exact numbers difficult. Again, specifically for India, it's difficult to say. But worldwide, around 25 million is what is reported.
And lastly, how much do you think this impacts the overall health apparatus in India, given the fact that till now we did not know that there is type 5 diabetes and Indians may be susceptible or vulnerable to it?
It's two things. Number one, the treatment, again, more awareness, the fine-tuning of the treatment could be done in these individuals specifically. But I think more than the treatment, it's a matter of public policy. So this type of diabetes, the foundations start early on in maternal, during gestation, during pregnancy, or even during as early as that. So where poor maternal nutrition has been linked to this type of diabetes in young adults, adolescents, or young Indians. So it's, I think, more to do with public policy, taking care of nutrition during gestation, early life, after gestation in young children. I think we would need as a country to focus more on making sure not only the calorie intake, but the balanced diet, taking sure of the micronutrients, and also making sure there's less protein energy, more protein and fat in the diet, which will help prevent these in the further generation.
Balanced diets could be the starting point to combat this. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on this story. Shifting focus now to the latest as far as climate catastrophes around the world. Well, entire ecosystems have been decimated in one of the UK's worst wildfire seasons ever. Wildfires are up 1,200% in some areas, with over 1,300 grass fires already this year. In Wales alone, in fact, a 1,600-hectare blaze in Wales has wiped out the last known habitation of golden plovers. Peat bogs, critical carbon stores have been scorched, and experts warn they could take centuries to recover. The damage isn't isolated. From Northern Ireland to the Peak District, wildfire like butterflies, beetles have all been impacted. Birds of prey are now vanishing. That's the impact on wildlife. Conservationists are urging that there should be immediate government action to mitigate these climate-fueled disasters before more habitats and species are lost forever. Now, what is the extent of the damage that we are talking about? Ms. Kelkar, who's the Executive Director of Climate WRI India, joins me to talk more about these wildfires. These are not isolated instances. They happen every year, except that they are now more pronounced than what they were earlier. What do you think could be the trigger?
One of the things that is happening with these wildfires, you rightly said that they have often happened before, but now they seem to be happening more frequently. They seem to be happening with a wider area. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were seeing the devastating images from Hollywood, where some of the largest wildfires have been seen. A few years ago, there was wildfires in Canada as well. We've seen tourists shooting wildfire images from Italy, Spain, Greece, or Europe. So these are happening now across the world. And the reason really is that the temperature is rising and rainfall patterns are becoming more erratic. For example, the California wildfires happened after a long period of drought. It was a very dry season. The message really that we need to take away from this is that nature is sending us some signals that climate is changing. I'll give you another example, not from a wildfire, but from our own country in Odisha, from the coast where olive ridley turtles hatch. And there was a study that was done by scientists recently, and they found that over the period of 15 years, in years where the temperature touched 33 degrees Celsius, the turtle babies that hatched, the hatchlings, they tend to be 97% female. What that means is that the species gets threatened. If you don't have a balance of the sexes, then it could be that in warm years,
Ulka, these climate catastrophes are impacting wildlife, they're impacting habitation, they are impacting all impacts across the world. Explain to us that what can possibly be done, let's say for a country like India, because the global south, developing countries, they are more vulnerable to these climate changes and climate-induced catastrophes.
You're absolutely right. And this has a direct effect on us because when forests are burning, they actually release the carbon that they had stored. And not just forests, but the grasslands that are burning, or peat bogs, swampy areas. All of these store carbon or even methane at times and release it and make it particularly dangerous for countries like ours. So I think the effort, the global effort to mitigate climate change has to continue. Otherwise, these are feedback effects that will cancel out the efforts that countries like ours are doing, for example, by switching to more renewable energy.
And finally,
the second thing that we have to be,
Finally, I want to ask you this, that at a time when there is no global push, so to say, as far as addressing these climate concerns are there, how do you think countries can now address this individually, given the fact that funding has dried up, there is no push, there's no focus here? How do you think it's going to be, each country figuring out for themselves?
No, definitely there has to be cooperation, and this can take many forms. So one is the use of insurance in a different way. So in the Hollywood wildfires, for example, we saw that insurance tends to withdraw from areas which are again and again affected by these same kinds of disasters. So we need more public aid money, more government money, as well as international climate finance to back up the kind of security that private insurance mechanisms could give. This is something on which regional or global cooperation could happen. India hosts the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure and could actually lead efforts on this issue in a big way. And at a very local scale, I think traditional wisdom is something that we do have to bring back. In the Western Ghats of India, for example, forest-dwelling tribal communities have always had their traditional ways of wildfire management, and the sort of abandonment or forgetting some of these traditional wisdoms has led to more invasive species like lantana affecting the forest. So we have to
At
revive
the end of
our
the day,
traditional
indigenous solutions need to be adopted for some of these indigenous habitations and indigenous species to also coexist along with development and growth. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining me. Hopefully, some of this could be addressed on a global scale collectively. On that note, completely timed out on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.
Whether you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing, get more time to pay with VeryPay. You can buy now and pay up to 12 months later, and pay no interest, with nothing to pay at checkout. And you can easily keep track of payments in the Very app. More time to pay with VeryPay.
Someone's happy. Get that lucky cow feeling with luckycowbingo.com/bingo. The site that's bursting with beautiful bingo games. 75 ball bingo. Even 90 ball bingo. Fill your bingo boots today. Get that lucky cow feeling at luckycowbingo.com/bingo or download the Lucky Cow Android app from the Play Store.
I think that there's something that's always there that I just need to uncover. Like, I know I'm gonna get there, but I have to be patient with myself. That's probably the scary part for me. And it's okay, like, if you completely pivot and change. You know, you have to be comfortable with that.
Best years, because your brain really matters.
For Monu, every step is agony. But he's forced to carry heavy loads and bricks up narrow, steep flights of stairs, hour after hour, day after day. Life can be cruel and short for hard-working donkeys like Monu. With little food, water, or rest, they must keep going no matter what. Crude harnesses cut into their flesh. Horrific wounds and injuries go untreated. And when they've given all they can, many will simply be abandoned. You could help us treat more sick and injured donkeys. We won't stop until each one has a good life. But we can't do it without you. So please call 0800 035 9305 or text STEP6 to 78866 and give £2 a month. Your help will be the first step towards a better life for brave donkeys like Monu.
I'm a simple man. Family, friends, and a bit of footy. The usual, Jules, thanks. Now I'm in my 50s, things are getting a little more complicated. Look, no one's getting any younger. Retirement's peeking around the corner, and with the mortgage nearly done, I wanted to make sure my family was really looked after, if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK.
The cabinet meeting that's on that contentious socio-economic survey will be our special focus and the details that come from there. But first, the headlines we're tracking this are. The Apex Court maintains status quo on the controversial and contentious provisions of the Waqf Law, grants the centre 7 days to file its reply. NDTV accesses West Bengal government's report on the Mushirabad violence, in which the government concedes that Hindus were targeted and Hindu houses were vandalized. Madras High Court steps into the Minister Ponmudy controversy, orders an FIR against the Tamil Nadu minister who allegedly made derogatory remarks against women at a conference. Well, first up this evening, the big story at the moment in Karnataka. The state cabinet special meeting is on as we speak to discuss the findings of the decade-old socio-economic survey. The meeting is on in the midst of sharp reactions to that survey from a large section of the Congress's Lingayat and Vokkaliga MLAs. Over 55 of the Congress's 137 MLAs are from the two dominant blocks of Karnataka's polity, and there is a demand to sidestep the survey from the religious and political leadership of the two communities. Several of the BJP leaders too against that survey. The cabinet could consider negating the issue by referring the report to a subcommittee and thereby delaying any action on it further. The 2015 survey has been a politically delicate issue, as the survey findings could threaten the status quo in the state's power equations. Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar, remember, Shivakumar belongs to the OBC Vokkaliga caste, and Chief Minister Siddaramaiah represents the Ahinda Social Coalition, which is a counter to the power of the Vokkaligas and the Lingayat sect in the state. I believe that cabinet meeting has come to a close as we speak at the moment. My colleague Deepak Bupanna, who's been tracking that very closely, joins me live right now. Deepak, tell me the latest you're hearing after that cabinet meet comes to an end, which has come to a close now.
Well, a very important update. The caste census, of course, was debated. It was debated in detail, but then there was no consensus as such. No final decision has been taken. The ministers have been told to give their answers in detail to the Chief Minister in the next meeting. When is this meeting going to happen? There's no clarity on that as well. I'm going to, of course, ask these questions straight to one of the cabinet ministers who's just stepped out in just a moment. And even as we speak, there are some cabinet ministers who are still inside. The biggest question here was, how will the Vokkaliga MLAs, or rather the ministers, really react, and how will the Lingayat ministers react? I'm going to, in fact, take this question straight to the Transport Minister, Mr. Ramlinga Reddy. Sir, thank you for speaking to NDTV. Could you tell us what happened in this cabinet meeting? Because, there was a lot, being spoken about how the Vokkaliga ministers, how the Lingayat ministers in particular will address the issues that their communities have been raising or the concerns that they've been flagging on.
There are all community ministers are there in the cabinet. Not Vokkaliga, Lingayat, like that.
I agree, but it was your community and your leaders who are flagging these concerns.
For MLAs or MPs, everybody, all community people will vote. But today, what happened? No, a Chief Minister told us, as means ministers, to give our opinion in writing.
Then what happened today, sir? Because the meeting started at 4:30. We're now close to 7. 2.5 hours that you all sat and deliberated. Discussion. What was the discussion about? Because only subject today was the cabinet. There must have been something important. Okay, so there was something that happened that you're saying that cannot be revealed right now.
We can't reveal.
Okay, interesting. Well, that is an interesting statement coming to the fore from the Transport Minister, Mr. Ramlinga Reddy, who goes on to exclusively tell NDTV that there were discussions about the caste census, but he's not in a position now to really inform about the same. So that means that there were some fireworks in all possibility, and that's probably the safest answer that he could come up with, that the ministers have been asked to come back again to point out their issues, probably even give it in writing. Back to you.
Deepak, I wish if you could put that question across to someone who was there on the cabinet meet. Can they confirm what's been reported about the details of that socio-economic survey? Because several academics have pointed out that what's being reported by us and by every other publication virtually are actually leaked contents of that report, not been authentically verified. So if you could give us some insight to that before we go to our special panel this evening. It seems to me that the Karnataka government seems to have delayed further action on a decade-old report, which is already long delayed.
Mr. Ramlinga Reddy is the only one who's actually walked out. I'm monitoring the door. You can see some activity there. And if there was somebody else, I would, of course, ask this question because this is very pertinent. For the last few years, there have been a lot of deliberations about, the numbers, especially of the Vokkaligas and the Lingayats, and the report allegedly showing that their numbers have dropped in the last few years, especially from 2015 when the survey was actually conducted. This was where the question marks arose. This is where the community seers and leaders started to say, well, this report was not done scientifically. Many of them started to question why their house nobody had visited. They said that according to them, the numbers of their community was much larger. So whether these question marks were actually there, or whether raised really in the cabinet, that's a very important question. We'll of course try and ask a few more cabinet ministers as they now step out of the Vidhan Sabha.
Okay. Okay, you get in there, Deepak. You're there at the Vidhan Sabha. Obviously, there will be some ministers you could go and catch their reactions to this from. We'll go across to our special panel, but right, go ahead, Deepak.
Well, I am trying to get in a reaction from Mr. R.B. Dimapur here, Minister for Excise. He doesn't seem to be in a mood to answer. Santosh Lad is here. I tried to get in an opinion from him as well. Well,
as of I am concerned now, next week the same matter will be continued with the cabinet.
Sir, what has been decided? Sir? What has been decided? Any decision as of now?
Listen, my dear friends, the entire process, when you hear it, the entire process, the way it has been done, when you hear it from the minister, you will understand how much parameters is been considered, how they have gone to house, how many households they have gone. All those details will be spoken by the concerned minister. Hear me out. As of now, what question you are asking me, now the cabinet, the same cabinet will be again forwarded for the next week. Again, the discussion.
Why again, sir? In 2.5 hours, were you able to not discuss completely, or why again? I'm just trying to understand, sir. Nothing else.
Because it's a larger issue.
Okay.
It's a larger issue. So have patience. Why? What? There's nothing like that. Because it still takes a lot of discussion to happen. It is going to take with the next week.
So will you be able to confirm that all the leaked information that has been coming out?
All the ministers had a chance to express their opinion. Even next week also we are going to speak about it.
A special cabinet or a regular cabinet?
So
one last question. There was a lot of leaked information in the last 6-7 years coming out about the caste census report. What are the findings of the report? Was that something that was made public today?
When minister is going to come and give you details, you'll be zapped. You'll be surprised. The detailing, the way it has gone. How they have gone to house, who has signed, every person, how many houses he's been appointed, what all the parameters they have taken, you know, who is having house, who is not having house, who is disabled, all the details is there. Just hold on for some time.
Were there objections raised as well, sir?
There is absolutely no objection from anybody.
No objections from anybody. That was
absolutely
Minister
no
Santosh
objection.
Lad once again speaking there and saying there were no objections.
Right, Deepak, you're right. Minister saying no objections from anybody, at least no objections in public, but obviously the objections we've heard over the last few days. We'll let you go and get more reactions there, Deepak. We have a special panel lined up this evening as well. We'll keep going back to Deepak as and when he gets more information and reactions from there. But for the moment, nothing concrete coming out of that cabinet meet as expected. Joining me this evening, Lavanya Balal Jain of the Congress Party, Vijay Prasad of the Bharatiya Janata Party. I have with me Professor Chandan Gowda, who has studied Karnataka's caste very closely, senior journalist R.K. Upadhyay, who's tracked Karnataka politics for several decades. Thanks to all four of you for joining us. Let me get quick political reaction, starting with you, Lavanya Balal. Another delaying tactic because it's a very, very potent, explosive issue to take any decision on. The cabinet will meet again, we are told, to discuss this matter further.
Good evening. It's wonderful to be back on your show. Yes, I heard the Labour Minister, Santosh Lad saying that we will be meeting once again to discuss this further. And I think it is very prudent because if it is such a sensitive issue like everybody is talking about, everybody's point of view must be taken into consideration and no one can be left behind. I've also heard that this survey, when I was part of one of these meetings 3 days ago, I heard there are multiple parameters that the survey had to, be conducted. There were more than 50 parameters that they had to check. And the people who have done the survey are also people who work with the union government. So I'm looking forward to this caste census be, released in Karnataka and essential changes being changed. As far as differences of opinion, I have seen multiple leaders of multiple communities speaking up, and I think it is correct on their part to speak up and to ensure that the community is well represented represented and the community's fears are heard by the government. That's absolutely correct. I think on part of those leaders, be it the leaders from Congress, JDS or BJP.
The only problem, Lavanya, is that we've been hearing this conversation go on for a decade now. It finally comes before the cabinet to get delayed further. Vijay Prasad, the BJP